On this opportunity to accumulate health, we're discussing symptoms of low B12, how to check your B12 levels, in a laboratory fashion, and how to help yourself out if you are indeed low in B12. So, as always, I am a practicing physician in Washington State, but more than likely, I'm not your physician. And so, anything I put out here in the podcast community, the YouTube community, please do not take this as medical advice or as I'm now your doctor, because that creates interesting issues. However, the opportunity to educate yourself, definitely take that. Take the opportunity to educate yourself today on B12 and its relationship to your body and your body manifesting at its highest level. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel as well, man, today's the day. Do it. Send this to your friends, your family members. Make sure they get all the opportunity possible to accumulate health. We don't want to leave anybody behind if they indeed want that opportunity. So how do we assess for B12 sufficiency? That is step number one in making sure B12 is good to go. So I'll tell you a little story. I had a 16-year-old girl come in with chronic, daily, unremitting frontal headaches, just ongoing. It was about 7 years ago, and she was taking Advil day in and day out to just take the edge off. But the headaches weren't going away. Every morning, headaches there. So they had run all these tests, supposedly been to neurologists, all these people, and there's no answer. We don't know what's going on here. And told, maybe it's hormones, and because it kind of started around puberty, maybe it'll go away, once you get to become pregnant, or maybe we could, put you on birth control, and that would help. Parents did not want her daughter doing that. Smart move, or potentially it's stress related. Well, she comes in, we do a full blood work panel, and lo and behold, she's low in B12. Her serum B12 was 130, and I would say at a minimum, I would keep my B12 over 600, but more like 1,000 ideally. So it was very low. And we started on B12 injections, then we moved to B12 lozenges, and amazingly, her chronic frontal headaches stopped. And I thought, once again, like so many times, in looking for answers, we skip over the simplest things. So remember, first off, the body desires to be nourished. Make sure it has all the tools, the resources necessary to succeed. That's vitamins, that's minerals, it's amino acids, fatty acids. It needs these tools to succeed. And more times than not, if you give the body these tools, it is so brilliant. God created a brilliant being here. It will just heal itself. So moving on, when it comes to B12 deficiency, the first thing to consider is your symptoms and your age. So if you are over 60 years old, you are at a very high risk of B12 deficiency because of gastric atrophy, because of dietary changes, and the body just not being able to uptake B12 as efficiently, which B12 is a little challenge to get in the body. And it's so important, if you want to maintain, especially cognitive health, to get your levels checked. And now for the rest of us, symptoms like chronic headaches, like we mentioned, fatigue, or maybe just even random headaches, balance issues, feeling like your hormones are really just all over the place, cognitive or focus issues, depression, anxiety, like neuropathies in your hands, feet, that numb, tingling feeling like you have a pair of socks on, you got some like fuzzy stuff in your socks when you don't. These could all easily be relatable to low B12 or literally low usable B12, the active B12. So if you have any of those symptoms are present, then you either might want to just try out taking some B12, in a lozenge or dropper form, and see if the symptoms don't improve over a 3 to 4 month time frame, or you may want to go to the lab, and get your levels checked, which the following labs I'm about to discuss are easily accessible, LabCorp, Quest Labs, and very inexpensive to get completed. And I think create or hold massive value in light of the benefits that B12 can bring to the table when it's sufficient. So the first test is you're testing your serum B12. So this is a very standard test, which basically measures the total amount of B12 just floating around in your bloodstream. And this doesn't say, is it active version, is it inactive version, which can be kind of problematic. But, I check this on literally every single patient. And if it's low, then yes, that person is low in B12. But like I mentioned, one of the challenges, it could be normal or even look high. And that doesn't mean necessarily the person has sufficient B12 activity. They have a lot of B12 hanging out in their bloodstream. So there isn't really a great test. There is a test, this trans-holocobalmin test you can do to differentiate between active and inactive, but it's just not readily available from standard labs like LabCorp and Quest Labs. So you can test B12 in a more functional manner. This test is called the homocysteine test. Often we hear about homocysteine related to cardiovascular illness, cardiovascular disease, cardiovascular risk, stroke risk, these kind of things, which is fantastic. Reason to test it. But a high homocysteine level suggests a decreased activity of B12 or a decreased level of B12. And in order for B12 to decrease homocysteine, it does need to be methylated. So, you potentially could have enough B12 in the serum, but not enough methylated B12 and end up with a high homocysteine. So that'd be a reason to check homocysteine levels. So as a person would, usually want to take methylcobalamin, that is my first go-to, but there is also hydroxycobalamin and there's adenosylcobalamin. There's other types of B12 you could take. But if you're going to lower lower homocysteine, you definitely need methylcobalamin. And you may want to do this to lower homocysteine levels because of homocysteine's association with increased clotting risk, hardening of arteries, decreased bone quality, density, cognitive impairments related to high homocysteine, and just cognitive decline as a whole, but especially with aging. And then there's a lot of pregnancy complications, preeclampsia associated with an elevated homocysteine. And then I think one of the questions is always, well, is it because of high homocysteine that these things are happening, or is it because of insufficient B12 these are happening? And we don't necessarily know which of these health challenges, what comes first there. But either way, if you get enough methylcobalamin on board, then the homocysteine level is going to come down. I've seen it just of late, and a lady who's had 53, homocysteine of 53, and it should be like 6 to 8, and give her a little B12, came down nicely. So that B12 is so invaluable for supporting decreasing neurological risk, cardiovascular disease risk. Got to have it on board. All right, the other functional measure is MMA, or methylmalonic acid. So if MMA is high, then this suggests that B12 deficiency is happening. And so you need B12 to convert methylmalonic acid into its usable form. And often people have normal B12 levels according to the reference lab. Maybe it's B12 is 450. It's like, oh, great, it's normal. But elevated MMA levels, if that's the case, then you would actually have low B12 activity. There would be insufficient B12 present. So if you feel like your symptoms are in line with lower B12, or you have those symptoms we discussed earlier, you have digestive issues, you're over 60 years old, you're vegetarian, you're vegan, then I would definitely be asking, hey, can we run an MMA test, a methylmalonic acid test, to see where my levels are at. All right, so as a final note, in my patient population over 60, I would say about 90% of these, I'm suggesting they consume supplemental active form B12. That's like the methylcobalamin, the hydroxycobalamin, or the adenosylcobalamin, any one of those three. And it just kind of depends. Do they have more energy issues? Do they have more detoxification issues? Do they have more neurologic issues? Which one are going to choose there? And then that'd just be, maybe they take it on a weekly basis, and that could be in a tincture, drops and lozenges. But my thought is always, the negative ramifications of low B12 on mental health, on dementia risk, they're crazy, they're extraordinary. And there is little to no side effect associated with taking some extra B12 and having that present in the body. So I think it is well worth the small investment to do that. And I mean, in the end, I would say like get your levels checked for sure. It is very inexpensive to do that. Also, if you're on antidepressants, sleep meds, acid blocking, heartburn medications, birth control pills, B12 absorption or utilization, it will be impaired. And the need for extra B12 will be increased. So got to look at those too. If you're basically taking those medications, probably dropping B12 in there as well. Or we're thinking, how can we get it so my being doesn't seem like it needs those to crush it in life? All right, I'm Dr. Matt. Let me know what B12 did for you or how it did for you, if you did well. What's your favorite type of B12? Love to hear it. Love to hear a B12 story. I know I've had many of just wild, oh my goodness, like crazy stories related to B12 and, it completely transformed people's lives when they got their levels up. So I'd love to hear your story. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and send this to your buddy. Talk to you guys and gals later.